And with that, it was gone. So, hi everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I'm playing about with a few things, so hopefully that wasn't too scary, but it was a little bit scary for Bill, so apologies for that. Kevin, thank you so much for that comment or that super chat, greatly appreciated, and thanks to Kevin Ladd from before as well. I don't know if I managed to thank you for the previous one that you had sent out the day. Was that last live stream or the one before? Anyway, so I hope everyone is very well. Hope you had a nice week and you're ready for a wonderful weekend. I'm wishing everyone a wonderful weekend even before it begins. So we're going to talk about a few things tonight. Of course, what's happening with the hooligans. I don't know why this has become a story. And the economy, your party as well, touch on your party a little bit. And of course, Donald Trump. So I want to jump to Donald Trump first. This is what he said about the current state in the war in Ukraine. And remember, Donald Trump had said that he would end the war straight away. So let's hear what he had to say.
We have a lot of drones right now. We build our own drones, but we also buy drones from others. And they make a very good drone. I mean, drone warfare has really come to the fore over the last couple of years because of this war. I will say, there's nothing like the jets. You know, we knocked out a lot of drones in Israel. We were knocking them out for Israel. And we were doing it with extremely fast and powerful jets, following the drones and knocking the hell out of them. So, you know, we know a lot about the drones, and we know a lot about the great jets, the great ones. The ones, well, and the B-52s, which were totally they were stealth. They were undetectable. So we have a lot of different weapons. And, you know, I have an obligation also, though, to make sure that we're completely stocked up as a country, because you never know what's going to happen in war and peace, right? You never know what's going to happen. So we're going to be talking about tomahawks, and would much rather have them not need tomahawks, would much rather have the war be over, to be honest, because, you know, we're in it to get the war over. We're selling a lot of different types of weapon, as you know, to the European Union. We're not in it for that. We're in it to get it over. We're losing thousands of people a week, thousands of people, Russian, Ukrainian, and mostly soldiers. I mean, mostly soldiers. But we're in it to see that end. And if we can end quickly, and I think we can. I mean, I had a very good talk yesterday. We're going to be talking about it. But I had a very productive talk yesterday with President Putin. We'll see what happens. But the war in the Middle East was far more complicated. We got that one done. And I think we have a good chance. I think President Zelensky wants it done, and I think President Putin wants it done.
What do they mean by done? They want it done. They want it over. They want peace. I'm not sure. For Putin, he actually wants peace. Putin could end this war tomorrow. He just pull his soldiers out of Ukraine and then the war will be over. So, you know, the United States could put pressure on Putin, but unfortunately it seems that maybe Putin has some dirt on Donald Trump. You know, people have talked about a particular videotape, but I don't think it's about that. I think it's Trump wants access to the Russian market. He knows that there's lots of money to be made in Russia, and he'd like to have a good deal with the Russians. He'd like to have his casinos and hotels bringing up all over Russia and make money out of it. I think that's his driving goal. He doesn't really care about peace. He doesn't care about Ukrainians or Russians. He doesn't really care about the situation. He cares about making money. And of course, the attention of it. Now, when it came to what happened last week, where Trump was front and center with this ceasefire, and let's hope that it holds. It doesn't seem to be holding very well. There have been a bit of chaotic scenes in Gaza, where Hamas have been carrying out executions, it seems, of rival factions. Individuals who they claim have been involved in crimes, people who they claim are collaborating with the Israelis or collaborated with the Israelis. So they have been eliminated. They have been executed without trial. So that's a little bit concerning. And there are factions already springing up or building in Gaza. So it's not just Hamas. There are a number of different groups, armed groups, who are probably trying to stamp their authority, and they want to carve out some sort of territory for themselves. As the situation improves, politically. But on the other hand, Israel still are carrying out strikes, it seems. There was a drone strike yesterday, I believe, or this morning in Gaza. So there are still issues that need to be sorted out. And while the ceasefire is somewhat holding, there needs to be a plan in place. What is the plan? And who is actually enforcing it? Because as I mentioned in videos, I also talked about, sorry, just looking at the chat. I talked about the Good Friday Agreement. I talked about the Oslo Accords, where you had Bill Clinton following the Oslo Accords, making sure that it got over the line. And then when it came to the Good Friday Agreement, Tony Blair was there, along with support from the United States with George Mitchell. So you had people on the ground, and you had people in Washington, in London, in Dublin, pressuring the stakeholders, pressuring the political parties to come to an agreement. We don't see that when it comes to Israel and Gaza. The administration is so chaotic around the world. Deliberately, yes, it certainly looks like that. What the F is this twaddle? I presume you're talking about Donald Trump. I hope you're talking about Donald Trump. You know, Donald Trump claiming that we're close to the end when it comes to a ceasefire in Ukraine. First of all, we'll have to have a ceasefire, and then we're going to have some sort of peace deal. But I can see it going two ways. One way is it comes across as, oh, sorry, I'm looking at the chat. I need to focus on this. One way I see it coming about is Trump supports Ukraine in order to get this thing done. Says, okay, we'll give you whatever you need. And there are signs of that. So, for example, Trump has lifted the limits on which weapons can be used and how far they can be fired into Russian territory. So that was a restriction that the Ukrainians had before. So that has been lifted, it seems. And he's talking about giving more weapons. Now, if he keeps saying about we're selling it through the European Union, he doesn't want to say I'm selling it to Ukraine, because I think there are a lot of Republicans who are a bit concerned about, hey, why are we still helping Ukraine? So if Trump can sell it as we're selling it to the European Union are buying our weapons and then they're giving them to Ukraine. That's their business. It's not really like that. It's not the European Union that's buying weapons, but let's not split hairs. The other approach, of course, is that he wants some sort of photo opportunity. So he pressures the Ukrainians to sign a deal with Putin, but the Ukrainians are not going to sign up to something that they know will not be enforced. They need security guarantees, and the United States has said that they are not going to provide any. Yeah, and I don't think that's going to change. So I think it's more the former, where Trump says to Zelensky, look, I'm going to give you weapons. You need to get this thing sorted. I think it's going to be like that. We're not going to get involved, but we're going to give you whatever you need. But you have to do the fighting. You have to kick the Russians out. And I don't know if Ukraine is actually at that stage. We're getting close to winter, of course, and this is when the fighting sort of dies down. But there could be a plan for some sort of spring offensive, which would push the Russians out of Crimea, maybe. But we've been down this road before. Anyway, guys, let's move on to the next story, which, of course, is I was going to say riots, the hooligans, and I'm not talking about Jonathan Gules here. So the government exploring what additional resources needed to allow Israeli fans to attend Aston Villa game. A government spokesperson says it is working with policing and other partners to ensure that the game between Aston Villa and Maccabi Tel Aviv can go ahead next month with all fans present. No one should be stopped from watching a football game simply because they're of who they are, the spokesperson said. Well, if they're a hooligan, then they don't have the right to attend. And this football team includes many ultras, so very far-right individuals who go there just to cause trouble. I honestly don't understand why this has become such a massive storm. You know, the police say, look, your fans can't attend. You can play, the team can play, but the fans can't attend because they're troublemakers. They've been involved in trouble before, and they'll be probably involved in trouble if we allow them to come. And that's it. The police say you're not allowed, nothing to do with politics. Although it seems that Jeremy Corbyn and an independent MP started a petition, which didn't really help the situation. They should have just left it to the police. The police decide, look, there's a security issue here. We're not going to go along. We're not going to permit it. That would be it. It'd be over. But I don't upset the sacred cow. I thought the Hooligans were the Form UK. Now, Jonathan Gullis hasn't defected just yet. Just give him just as soon as he finds out how to use the internet, he'll be there signing up to reform. We're exploring what additional resources and support are required so all fans can attend. In a post, the Home Secretary added, the government is doing everything in our power to ensure all fans can safely attend the game. And then she wrote this on Twitter. Why is there so much political capital being spent on this? Is it because Reform UK and the Conservatives came out and said, hey, this is anti-Semitic, suggesting that these Israeli fans cannot attend a game? No, well, look, they can't attend a game because they have a track record of engaging in violence. And who's going to pay the cost to the damage done? Like, I mentioned, I don't know if it was in a video, but I mentioned, it was in the video where I said about how Napoli, they were not allowed to play a game back in 2023 because they have a record of hooliganism. So there were risks to public safety, so it didn't go ahead. Why is this a story? I honestly don't know. And the government are, of course, bending over backwards to satisfy Reform UK and the Tories. Instead of showing a backbone and saying, this is nothing to do with the government, nothing to do with us. This is a police matter. The police have made a decision. We back the police. We back the police because we have to back the police, because we are the government. Like, the police have not done anything illegal. It's not like we're talking about corruption or anything here. We're talking about the police making a decision on public safety. Because if these people are eventually invited and they riot and they cause damage to public property, who's going to pay for that? Well, taxpayers are going to have to pay for. People who did not engage in violence will have to cover the cost of the violence. And it's pretty clear that a lot of these fans, I don't know if all the fans are like this, but some of the fans, you don't even need all of them. Anyway, guess who jumped on board? Is there a bandwagon that she hasn't jumped on yet? Well, of course, Kemi Badenoch.
I think it is a national disgrace. This is something that the police should be able to deal with. We cannot be a country where we tell Jewish people that they can't come to watch football.
Nobody said Jewish people can't go. They said the fans of this club can't go. Is Kemi Badenoch claiming that every Jewish person is a fan of this club, or that every fan of the club is Jewish? Because it's not necessarily true. She's pathetic. Oh, for fuck's sake, Badenoch is back. She saw, there's a bandwagon, I better jump on board it before. Oh, look, Nigel's already on it.
Because their security is not going to be looked after. What I want to see is the police finding ways to make sure they can be secure. And
so you want more public money spent in order to stop people who have a track record of rioting from rioting. Wouldn't it be cheaper? Like, this is the Conservative Party who keep complaining about cost. It's expensive. Who's going to pay for this? Will Kemi Badenoch put her hand in her pocket, I should say, and cover the cost? Will the Conservative Party pay the extra cost for the security? No, they won't. They're saying the police need to spend more money. But there's no justification, because if the police have already made a decision, they said this should not. This is not me being party political or anything. I've said before, if if there are hooligans involved, the hooligans should not be allowed to attend the game. I also mentioned in the video if the club should be forced to pay any damages. Then what the club will do, they will filter out the hooligans. They will say, okay, anyone who wants to attend the game must have a ticket, and your name must be on the ticket, and you must be a member of the club. So that if you do engage in violence, we can punish you in some way. We can strip you of your membership, we can fine you, we can punish you, we can hand you over to the police or something like that. That's the way it should be done. This would root out a lot of violence. It would root out a lot of hooliganism. So the hooligans can turn up outside the game. There's nothing you can do about that. But they cannot attend the game unless they have a ticket. And the ticket must be in their name and they must be a member of the club. And if the hooligans engage in violence, the club has to pay the costs. That's the way it should be, because that would encourage the clubs to clamp down on the hooliganism. Kemi never fails to deliver some comedy. Thanks, Christy. Yes. She should. I keep saying she should do stand-up.
Sending the message to the Islamists and those who are pushing anti-Jewish hatred that this does not happen in the UK. Britain has always been a sanctuary for Jews, and it always should be.
But it's not about Jews. It's about hooligans. Is Kemi Badenoch suggesting that Jewish people are hooligans? Because I'm talking about hooligans and she's talking about Jewish people. So who's wrong? Is it me or is it Kemi Badenoch? Because I think Jewish people are generally not hooligans in the same way as Muslims are not hooligans generally. Catholics are generally not hooligans. I'm using general because, of course, there are exceptions. But I'm saying that Jewish people should be able to attend the game. But fans of this club I cannot attend because the police have made a decision. Like, I presume there are Jewish people who are fans of Aston Villa. They will be able to attend. So it's not against Jewish people. You know, if somebody really wants to see the game, well, then they could just go and support Aston Villa officially, but in their heart, they support the other team.
Are you calling on West Midlands Police to overturn this decision, Kemi Badenoch?
Yes, they should, and if not...
So she wants to interfere in the police. She's trying to tell the police what to do. The police are supposed to be independent. Politicians are not supposed to tell the police what to do. The politicians, the governments can give instructions to the police. You need to do this, you need to do that when it comes to upholding the law, maintaining public safety. But you're not supposed to get involved in individual situations. Say, no, you're supposed to allow this. You're supposed to overturn your decision. No, this is reckless. It's ridiculous. Of course, we're talking about the Conservatives here.
The Home Secretary should get involved. Last week, she was telling us all the...
My goodness, there are people. Can you imagine? Okay, this is me going... I'm sorry, guys, but this is me going on a frigging rant. Can you imagine... And I've said this before... Can you imagine if we took 1%, just 1% of the amount of passion people have for football and put it into something actually valuable? Can you imagine if we took 1% of the passion people have for football and put it into combating homelessness or poverty or closing down food banks? Can you imagine if Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives decided, hey, you know, we're so passionate about this. We want the government to get involved. We want the government to spend money. We want the police to overturn the decision because of a football frigging game. Can you imagine if she said, we want to get the government involved to end homelessness? Which is fucking more important? A football game or homelessness? A football game or poverty? A football game or children going hungry? Which is more important? For me, I think it's quite clear what's more important. I think the politicians should invest more time and effort in one than the other. No, but football is more important. How is that possible? I honestly don't understand this. I understand Kemi Badenoch jumping on frigging bandwagons. But how is it possible that people think it's more important to focus on a fucking football match that most people will not be attending because it's Aston Villa and the Tel Aviv team, People think it's more important that the government get involved in this than getting involved in ending child poverty or homelessness or food bank usage or crime. No. All these things have to be parked. These things are not important because we need to focus on a fucking football match.
The things that she wanted to do for Jewish people, I didn't believe her then. I remember when she was lying down in front of a Sainsbury's because it was selling Israeli goods. They need to give confidence to Jewish people in our country. And if the Home Secretary can't do it, then
There are Jewish people, I presume, who are Aston Villa fans. They are going to the game. What's your fucking malfunction?
Prime Minister should. He needs to show that he's got a backbone and isn't so weak that he will just allow Jewish people to be terrorised here.
So he needs to have a backbone and bend over for Kemi Badenoch. He needs to do exactly what Kemi Badenoch is demanding. He needs to have a backbone and do this. A distraction, Max. For the swear jar. Thanks, Gavin. No, but I honestly don't understand. Yeah, maybe it's a distraction. Should be the football teams that sort it out. Exactly, Christy. Yeah, this should be left to the football teams. The football teams come together and they say, like, do we want these people attending this match? No, we don't, because they're going to get involved in crime. They're going to break stuff. And then we're going to have to pay the cost. We'll have to foot the bill. That's the way it should be. And then the teams the clubs should get together and say, we let's keep these people out. They're not beneficial to us. You know, if they want to buy a ticket, they can, but they're not going to be allowed to go to the game. Don't tell me I'm not sure what happened there with Alistair. Apologies. She's working class. Doesn't make gaffes.
And I would say this, what starts with Jews doesn't end with Jews. We cannot have mob rule in this country where other people can intimidate certain groups in the community and the police say it's all too difficult. It's simply not good enough.
Oh my goodness. Joke, Max. Okay. I was getting a bit worried because it looked like a buffering problem. So the Israeli spokesman was, of course, asked about this, who is somebody I admire hugely. I'm being a little bit sarcastic there. I hate this guy, because he's a lying charlatan. He's like a sort of Nigel Farage figure. But let's hear what he had to say. He was on LBC.
A number of threats have been made around the match, which are understood to have been taken seriously by police. I wonder what you make of that. The police now advising it would be unsafe for the fans of Maccabi Tel Aviv to come to Birmingham.
That would be an extremely sad state of affairs for Britain, not for Israel, for Britain.
Not for the fans, but for Britain. Okay, how?
That Jews and Israelis would feel in some way unsafe or not unable to go to a football match, for heaven's sake, on the streets of the UK. That is a problem that Britain must face up to.
Okay, but we're talking about people. See, the elephant in the room here is that it's hooligans. So we're not talking about normal fans. So I remember many years ago, I don't know if some Irish people on the show who are the same vintage as myself will probably remember, and I think it was an England-Ireland match back in the early 90s or mid-90s. And there was a scene where there was a father and his son who were terrified, and this image remained in people's minds. Because there was hooliganism taking place. I don't know if it was Northern Ireland versus the Republic or England versus Ireland. Anyway, it was fans, hooligans attended, and they started throwing missiles and trying to wreck the entire stadium. And it was a pivotal moment, and people were shocked by this because people honestly believe, look, there's a bit of rivalry in football. People will, get passionate. But at the end of the day, it's just a game. And in reality, it's just a game. It's not a matter of life and death. Or as they say in football, it's more than that. But that scene of a father and son, the son wearing a scarf, he was watching I think he was crying, actually. He was terrified. After that, it was like, okay, we don't want hooligans anymore. Hooligans are not welcome. Hooligans, if they want to rant and rave at the TV, do it at home. If they want to rant and rave at the match, do it at home. Do it to your TV. Don't bring your hatred with you. Stay at home. Like, honestly, I don't understand why people turn up at a football match to have a fight and not actually to watch a football match. Opinion on Adrian Ramsey. He used to be the deputy leader of the Green Party. Not a huge fan of him. He's not a very nice individual, in my opinion. Zach is much better. Look, as I said, when it comes to Zach, I think he's doing a good job, and I think he's a decent human being. But, you know, all of that can change. Okay, that's my insurance policy against the future. Brad, thanks so much for that subject. Badenoch has licked so many interest groups or donors. She's wanted by Jeremy Kyle to assist in DNA profiling. Well said, Brad. And good to see you back. It was England fans who caused problems in Dublin, singing their favourite songs. Old ditty, no surrender to the IRA. Yeah, Luxley Lennon, prime example, otherwise known as Tommy Robinson. Aston Villa are a local team to me. The way I've heard the people talk down our city is disgusting. Aston Villa, people of Aston Villa, I don't know yourself here, but I presume that there are Jewish people who support Aston Villa. They will be able to attend the game because they don't want to trash the place. It's these hooligans that want to trash the place, and they still want to be able to go there. Like, why should any city say, yes, oh, you want to trash the place, come on in and trash the place, and then we're going to have to cover the cost, and you'll fuck off back to your home and riot while you're on the flight going back drunk. This is what's going to happen. And why should ordinary people who have pride in their city have to live in fear that their city is going to be burnt to the ground or that riots are going to take place because people can't watch a fucking football match without getting into a fight?
That is a problem that the Britain's government should not appease, should not, appeal to the good nature on the day after a synagogue is attacked in Manchester, that maybe it's not a good idea to scream from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
Wasn't it Netanyahu? I covered this already. Netanyahu said from the river to the sea.
Which is an anti-Semitic chant.
So Netanyahu is anti-Semitic. Okay, that's a new one.
You know, and to appeal to people's good nature, extremism must be stood up to.
Yes, and this is exactly what's happening. The extremist fans, the people who want to riot, are being stood up to. Well, they're not even being stood up to, they're being denied. They're saying, like, we don't want you here, you're not coming. You're not allowed into the stadium. Sorry that you bought a ticket, but maybe if you clean up your act, maybe if you encourage other people who like to riot and you're not a rioter, maybe you should put pressure on your team, on the club, to kick these people out. Like, if I was in a club and I couldn't go because of some fucking idiot who couldn't hold their beer, then I would put pressure on the club to kick that person out, because then I would have to go. I would say, well, I'm not going to stay in a club if I can't go to the match because of some idiot who can't, keep their head straight. The whole team is about racism. Yeah, use it as an arena to kick off. I like Zach. I hope he doesn't get caught up in something and be forced to resign. Yeah, I hope so too. Don't have heroes because they will disappoint. But, at least at the moment he seems to be quite decent. The bar is pretty low anyway. That's what the pro-Palestinian marches are about, standing up to extremism. Israel, you clack wanker Mercer. I hate the thought of them coming, but I'm quite sure the English will soon put them in their place. There's no violence at an NFL game. No, and there's no violence at a rugby game. I have been in pubs watching rugby matches. I'm not even a fan of rugby, but if I'm in the pub and the rugby is on, I watch it. I remember many times been at a rugby match, not at the match, but in a pub watching a rugby match when it was between Ireland and England, or Ireland and Scotland, or Ireland and Wales, or Ireland and another country. And people got on. There was a bit of rivalry, but at the end, everyone were friends. Why isn't it like that in football? I honestly don't know. Shouldn't at the end of a football match everyone cheer together and say, that was a great game, you won, we lost, it's not the end of the world, okay? Let's go to the pub together after and talk about, the goal, or who scored and who didn't, or, about the referee and stuff. Why can't people be like that when it comes to football? Shouldn't it be like that? Just an excuse for low intellectual thugs to cause bother, to prove that they are real men. Fannies to a man. Well said, Pete. Did Lenin go over to Israel to give them some tips on? Yes, he did. That's why. Why is he there? What is he doing in Israel? Apart from maybe filling his pockets, that's what he's about. I find it so funny that Tommy Robinson keeps complaining about foreigners and immigrants, and then he spends most of his time outside Britain. You're usually taking the sun in Spain or in Portugal, or this time he's in Israel, and his fans keep giving him money. We need to give Tommy more money because he's fighting the good fight while relaxing by the pool. But don't worry, he'll be back again to take it to Keir Starmer, to call for a general election. How well is that going? Ultras generally don't cause problems at matches. Too many police on the streets, if they can be a different matter. Honestly, I don't know. If they can't attend, they probably will give up. And I think the clubs need to take responsibility for that. Guys, we're about halfway through the stream, so I'm just going to take a short comedy moment, and then we'll be back in just a jiffy, more serious stuff. Hope you enjoy this.
What the fuck is this? It's the middle of October. Can we get a handle on ourselves, please? I'm not standing for this. Every fucking year it's earlier. There's plenty of Christmas. We don't need any fucking more of it. I don't wanna get back, Mariah! Dublin, you're making an absolute fool out of this country with this attention seeking. What will all the foreigners think? Imagine a lovely Chinese family. They've come to Ireland for the first time. It's enough of a culture shock as it is. They're gonna think they've travelled forward in time 6 fucking weeks. What happened to Halloween? Can we not afford that one anymore because of fucking inflation? Is this a cover-up? Have the government sold the Halloween decorations? Where's the fucking money? If I disappear, it wasn't an accident. Christmas will never be allowed in October. This is a very special time of year in Ireland. This is the time of year where we talk about, aren't the evenings getting shorter? And Jesus, getting cold, I'll have to start throwing the heating on. Very important tradition. Follow me. I'm delicious.
It's true. Aren't the evenings getting shorter? Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's move on to the next story. Corbyn and Sultana have patched things up, but what really happened?
There were some errors made about, announcements and so on, and that caused a problem. Yes, of course it did. Of course I'm disappointed, but we're past that.
Like Liam and Noel, who managed to patch things up and have a very successful tour, we are doing the same.
A new left-wing movement is wrapping its campaign around these two heroes on the left. But splits and infighting have dominated. Can this party get itself together? Only a few weeks ago, the party had their second public spat when Zara launched a membership portal without notifying the rest of the party. It caused a rift, and now members are asking whether this nameless party is squandering an opportunity.
I'm just wondering how excited you are.
When are they going to name the party? I'm curious about the name. I want to hear the name of the party. Teague, great to see you from America, from Fascist America. A preview of coming events. Hopefully, no, when if Farage gets in. Sod the porthole. But it's what is the name of the party? What, you can't just keep calling it your party. They have to come up with Guys, in the chat, what do you think the party name should be?
For this new party? Why are you here?
Really excited, yeah. Been waiting years for it, to be honest with you, so it's long overdue.
The real chance for a lot of us to actually get our views out and be heard by the news, for example.
I'm so excited, genuinely, like I said, obviously I'm excited about Jeremy Corbyn as well, but like Zara Sultana, you know, she's a brown girl, like she's such an icon for us.
Now the two co-leaders claim they're fully united.
Jezbollah, that's quite mean. We have Socialist Workers' Party, the Run Out of Steam Party, the Protest Party, the Fuck Up for Ash Party, Need a People's Party, Nausea and Neoliberalism Party. Corbyn is definitely not Liam. The party that shall not be named. The Britpop was a shite party. I Need a Job Party. Party McParty Face. I think that's what they should go with. Party McParty Face. Like Boaty McBoatface. Do you remember Boaty McBoatface? That was wonderful. Never ask the internet to name your party or your boat. Stop the Yachts Party. That would actually be quite good. I like, the People's Front of Judea, or the Judean People's Front, but then it's a bit far from maybe the People's Party. Yeah, the People's Party could be something good. Andy Burnham Fan Club Party. Please Send Money Party. Zara Sultana's Alliance Circus. The Antifa Party, or Antifa, as they say in America. Antifa Party. The Blur Haters Party. My head is hurting Party. Look, they need to come up with a name, okay? The Party Animal, or Animal Party. Party Animal would be good. They need to come up with a name, yeah, definitely. But it's not the most important. But is it actually going to work? Well, let's continue.
And want to move on.
You apologised for some of the chaos initially with this party. Are you disappointed maybe that Jeremy Corbyn didn't?
I think it's really important for me to speak to members and potential members who have all been disappointed and frustrated with what's happened over the past few weeks, and showing them that we are making a change in the way that we approach issues, but also just moving past it.
But does it imply that you were in the wrong and not him? Some might interpret it that way.
No, absolutely not. I made decisions, and a decision that I made today was to apologise.
Are you apologising for the early release of membership?
I'm apologising for the chaos that people have seen over the past few weeks, and what I will say is what we are building has never been done before.
I noticed that Zara did apologise in her speech. You didn't.
Yeah, we're moving on. We're building a party.
We'll stop talking about Itchy Bum Party. The Greens are way better. He's talking bigly, says Shaka on Facebook. I can't stand Boris Party. Yes, I would join that. We're here to wind up the Labour Party. The Greens are far better. Look, when it comes to the Greens, at least they have a party name. And look, I think a big problem for your party is that they're divided on something pretty important, which is how policies are put together. They're talking about one way, this is the Zara Sultana way, of the members deciding policies, while it seems that Jeremy Corbyn would like to have a sort of committee decide the policies. I think it makes more sense to have a committee decide the parties and then the policy, and then the members vote on it, and they can shape the policies. But having the members as not like, it seems to be she doesn't want to have a proper leadership. She just wants to have the members decide, okay, everything. The members will decide. But you can't have the members decide everything because it will be chaos. And then you will eventually have factions that will work together to influence. And then you'll end up with a situation where you'll need to have something like a committee decide, okay, who is a candidate? What policy? What's our platform? Do we have a whip? What are the rules within the party? It's going to be very difficult to get people to vote on all of that. You need to have a committee that puts forward, a platform or puts forward a bunch of rules, and then the party members vote on that.
Some might interpret that as she was in the wrong that you weren't. Would you like to apologise as well for the
listen,
chaos?
I don't attack people. I haven't attacked people. I want to move on, and that's why the party is developing and moving on very well.
And what's happening with the 800,000 people who and the money? What happens with their money now?
The money will all be placed in the account of yourparty.uk, which is now a registered party, recognised by the Electoral Commission, and with robust banking arrangements and very strict data protection rules. And I am very serious about the data protection GDPR rules. They will be observed.
As left-wing activists meet in Manchester this weekend for the World Transformed Conference, there's another party on people's minds.
Thank you, conference. Let's go!
Popularity of the Green Party has surged under the eco-populist Zach Polanski. But on whether he'll join this new party...
Well, my door's always open to Jeremy Corbyn and Zara Sultana, but actually...
Green Party members.
Well, absolutely, I'd love them to be Green Party members. I think, though, or I know, that my relentless focus is on growing the Green Party.
And problems have emerged with the existing coalition too. The other 4 independent MPs have come under scrutiny after Zara Sultana labelled them a sexist boys' club.
Would you consider yourself left-wing?
My view is very simple, fighting for equality, fairness and justice. We all know that different...
So he's not left-wing. Because if you ask, if the guy is part of what we would presume is a socialist party, because Zara Sultana has said it's a socialist party, surely if you ask one of the senior people within it, one of the founding members of it, he would say, yes, I'm left-wing. But he didn't say that. He started talking about something else.
Different wards, different constituencies have different priorities, and MPs should be allowed to represent the views of the communities they serve.
Okay, so he's a conservative. Okay, he's socially conservative. Maybe he's economically left-wing, but it seems to be he's socially conservative. And I think this could create a lot of problems for your party. Because one thing is having a broad church, but you need to have a vision in the centre. So the vision has to be really... some are landlords, yes. My goodness. Once again, Zara Sultana said, we're a socialist party. We're not like the Greens. The Greens are too liberal. We're much further to the left, and we include landlords, and we include socially conservative individuals. I'm not saying it's not possible for socially conservatives to be part of a left-wing party. I'm not saying that it's impossible for landlords to be part of a left-wing party. But they're going to have to, for example, if they're having a vote on, for example, something like a rent cap, are those landlords going to be able to vote? Will they be allowed to vote on something like that? Because their vote will carry weight. If there was a significant number of people, if it was a tie, some people were not so sure about a rent cap or whatever, and it came down to the landlords and they voted out, and actually we were against that, it could fail. Not saying it's highly unlikely it would fail, but why is a landlord joining a party that's describing itself as socialist? Why is a social conservative joining a party that claims it's socialist? I don't know how you square those circles. Once again, I'm not against them doing well. I hope they do well. I think they're good individuals. I think Zara Sultana is somebody who cares about poverty, cares about the poor, cares about the most vulnerable in society. She has stood up for them as an MP. Jeremy Corbyn the same. But I don't see this party. Maybe it will work out. Maybe this is all a bit of a storm in a teacup, but at the moment, I don't see it going very well. I think I see it sort of falling apart because there isn't a foundation. You need to have a foundation. You need to have a core beliefs. Okay, these are our core beliefs, and people can jump on board, but they have to respect these beliefs. They have to push these beliefs. But it seems to be a mixed mash of all sorts of beliefs, and there's no one at the top who's saying, okay, this is what the situation is going to be. David, thank you so much for that super chat. Works for the SNP, but it's left of centre, because everyone is. Thanks for that super chat, David, and you know this better than I do when it comes to the SNP. But there's a focus. The focus is independence. So you can have socially conservative people on board because they want independence. You have left-wingers on board as well because they believe in independence. So everyone rallies around the one vision. People will put aside their differences. You know, where it came to, I forget what her name is, who was a very religious individual, member of the SNP, who was running to be leader. But then you also have people who are maybe atheists or Muslims or Jewish or whatever in the SNP who would disagree with her on religion or on social issues. But they put their differences aside when it comes to, okay, our goal is independence. Kate Forbes, yes. If Corbyn hadn't been so vague about Brexit, we might not have left the EU. I don't want to put too much blame on Jeremy Corbyn when it comes to Brexit. I think a big problem was Farage and Johnson were able to sell something, and the Remain side were terrible at selling the European Union. Because once again, it's important to remember that it wasn't really Remain versus Leave. It should have been an anti-EU position and a pro-EU position. So we had the UKIP and Boris Johnson with the anti-EU position, but the other side didn't really have a pro-European position. They were like, yeah, well, let's just remain. It's better to stay as we are. Let's stay and reform things. But that didn't grab people's attention. And then, of course, we had austerity before that, which drove a lot of people to give the government a bloody nose. I think if austerity hadn't happened, it's less likely that Brexit would have happened, because people would not have been so angry with the status quo. But we can't relive those days. We can't rehash that. Back the Portland Free Frogs. Well said, Sir Larry the Cat, standing up to fascism. I blame the 17.5 million people. Don't let me start. Sure, Labour were pro-Brexit. Jeremy Corbyn, I'm not going to go over, I'm not going to rehash about Jeremy Corbyn. I want to actually interview Jeremy Corbyn. I've reached out to him, but I haven't received a response. I would like to actually interview him. Maybe it's more possible to interview him now than before. Mars Bar Party, I would vote for that. Unfortunately. Anyway, let's move on. This is really good. This is what we need to hear more of. So Ash Sarkar is a commentator for Novara Media, and she was on Question Time the other night. Have a listen to what she had to say.
Everything is too expensive and nothing works. And taxation is a part of that, but I'm going to come to that in a second. The first thing I actually want to talk about is where we're paying too much money. So £200 billion of our money has been paid out to shareholders for privatised utilities like rail and mail and energy and buses and stuff of that nature. That's money that could have gone into reducing customers' bills or investing in infrastructure. It hasn't. It's gone out in the form of shareholder profit. Or if you look at social care, which is really the monster under the bed whenever you look at any local authority's budget, the role of private equity is disgusting. So nearly a quarter of foster placements and children's residential homes are run by companies backed by private equity, and they're looking for profit margins of about 20% or more. So it's hugely expensive for local authorities, and that money isn't going into workers' wages, it's going into private equity. So the first thing we need to do is admit that privatisation has been a failed experiment, it has cost this country dearly, and it is an experiment that needs to end. The second thing that I want to talk about is where actually the tax burden needs to shift. So, Gordon, you were the one who raised the question first, right? Can I ask you a personal question? Are you a billionaire? No. Then you're probably paying enough tax. So there are 50 families in the UK who have more wealth than 50% of this country combined. And half of billionaire wealth comes from inheritance, it comes from hoarding property, and it comes from finance. So we're not talking about businesses that employ people, we're not talking about socially productive uses of capital, we're talking about hoarding things.
Well said, well said. My only criticism of people from Navarra, and this is probably, and I don't want to present this as a criticism, and I think Jimmy the Giant made a similar criticism, is that the language they speak is not the language that ordinary people understand. So if you're talking about capitalism, if you're talking about socialism, most people don't understand that. But what she did put across here, of course, is that when you talk about these taxes, increasing taxes on the rich, we're not talking about people who get up every morning and go out and do a job. We're talking about people who have huge amounts of wealth that is hoarded, that when they go to bed at night, they wake up in the morning and they've already increased their wealth by a huge amount. People who are not working, people who are benefiting as a result of somebody else working. So that needs to change. And this is what needs to happen with the wealth tax. But unfortunately, politicians are afraid to even talk about it, with the odd exception. And what you need to do is you need to be like Nigel Farage. What Nigel Farage was very good at was being radical in his approach. So he would throw out these ideas, we need to stop all immigration, or we need to deport everyone who comes in by a small boat. And people are like, hey, that's crazy. No, we can't do something like that. So let's move in his direction to something a bit softer, something a bit more palatable. So we have to do on the left, we have to do the same thing. For example, Ollie Dugmore from Joe Politics Joe, he threw out the idea of 100% inheritance tax. Now, of course, most people are like, what the 100% inheritance tax? So it's about getting people's attention. So you have to grab their attention. If you talk about, well, what we need to do is reform the system, or we need to make some small changes, or no, people are not going to listen to that. You need to be radical. You need to be like Farage in a way. Throw out a radical idea. People wake up and go, what the hell? That's a stupid idea, or that's a ridiculous idea, or we can't do that. Then you get them talking. Then you can move them in your direction. Okay, maybe not a 100%. What about a 90% tax? Or what about not above 10 million, but 20 million or something like that? So you can get the conversation moving. That's what we need to do. And unfortunately, centrist parties are more about, well, we need to tweak around the edges, or we need to reform this or that a little bit, not to upset the apple cart too much. And then nothing happens. And then we turn around and say, why did nothing happen? Well, because there wasn't any momentum behind it. People didn't feel there was a need, or it's too difficult. So we look at Trump in the US. I'm going to build a wall. That's absolutely ridiculous. But he got people talking about immigration in the wrong way. I'm not saying this is something that we should admire, but what you do is you throw out a radical policy. You don't have to actually achieve it, but you get people talking, and then they're talking about what you want them to talk about. And when it comes to the left, we need to do stuff like that. When it comes to taxes, 100% inheritance tax on wealth over 10 million. The right and the millionaires will go, what the hell? Or billionaires more likely. So this is what we have to do, and talk more about this. Brad, thanks so much for that super chat. Andy Pandy now backs nationalisation after losing his royal titles. Running air conditioning units isn't cheap. So yes, I forgot. How could I have forgotten? Prince Andrew is no longer Prince Andrew. He's just Andrew, or Andrew the Nonce. Sir Nonce. Yeah, he's no longer. He's been stripped of his titles. So now what happens? I thought he should have been put in the Tower of London, but the king didn't take me up on that offer, or even worse, considering like who I am. But it's good that he is getting some sort of punishment, But yeah, it's going to be difficult to run all that air conditioning. keeping him cool. The bloke who married a commoner. Long overdue. Wages have stagnated for too long, of course, Christy. Yeah, and this is a problem. So, double the minimum wage. Throw that out as a policy. And people are like, "What? No, that's too much." And then you get them talking about, well, why should we double the minimum wage? Because people have to rely on benefits because it's not covering their costs enough. Oh, well, we can't double it. Maybe we can start talking more about how people are supposed to survive on the minimum wage or pay their bills on the minimum wage. I think we need to be more radical with our... Don't expect that people will agree. Don't expect that the policy will be implemented, the one that you shout from the rooftops. It's not going to happen. But we have to move in that direction. A UBI. I keep banging on about a UBI, but nobody wants to listen. I even waited 5 years to do an interview with somebody about it. But nobody wants to listen. 24 an hour max. Well said. Freeze bills, increase minimum wage. Yes. Radical policies, radical. UBI is pretty radical, but me on my own doing it is not enough. We need more people talking about a UBI. Well, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I want to cover this final story before we go. Oh, my goodness. So Donald Trump has a sort of health secretary, and he's a Kennedy. His name is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Now, you probably have heard of this guy before. He's starting to sound a lot like Brexit. Have a listen.
My opinion, I always tell people, is irrelevant. People, we need to stop trusting the experts, right? We were told at the beginning of COVID, don't look at any data yourself, don't do any investigation yourself, just trust the experts. And
who said this? Who said don't do any data, don't look at any data yourself, don't do any investigation, just trust the experts? Who said that? I say we should listen to experts over politicians. I've never said we should listen to experts over other experts. When I say about listen to experts over politicians, because politicians are in the business of lying, while experts have something to lose if they're wrong. Now, does that mean that experts are always right? No. But I would trust somebody who loses out if they make a mistake than a politician who actually benefits if they're wrong. Okay? Look at Kemi Badenoch. How many times has she gaffed, and has she suffered any consequences? Liz Truss, yes, she was eventually removed from office. But did that mean that she went away and apologized? No, she's making lots of money on the side. Boris Johnson, another one. Did these people suffer any consequences for lying, for being wrong? Nigel Farage is likely to be a prime minister someday. Has he suffered any consequences for lying about Brexit? Telling fishermen, farmers, your life will be better off if we leave the European Union. Has he suffered any consequence? No, he's actually benefited from lying. So, while an expert would tell fishermen or farmers or whoever, actually it would be bad for you if we leave the European Union, and if they got it wrong, they would suffer some consequences. People would stop hiring them as experts. But when you're a politician, lying isn't just part of the job, it's a requirement.
Don't do any investigation yourself, just trust the experts. And trusting the experts is not a feature of science. It's not a feature of democracy. It's a feature of religion, and it's a feature of totalitarianism. In democracies, we have the obligation, and it's one of the burdens of citizenship, to do our own research and make our own determinations about things.
I say on this channel, don't believe what I say. Do the research yourself. But when we're talking about understanding research, we need to rely on experts. See, I could study brain surgery, but I would need to rely on the brain surgeon to do the job. Okay, me learning about it, I could study brain surgery, I could study all of it, but I would not be the person that you would go to carry out the operation, because you'd need an actual brain surgeon, somebody who has experience, somebody who understands everything about it. What the Trump administration and people within the Trump administration are trying to say is, no, you don't need to listen to the person flying the plane doesn't have to be a pilot. It can be anyone. Let's just put anyone in the cockpit. Let's have a vote. Who should fly the plane? Is it the pilot, or is it some guy, sitting in seat 13F? Should we put that guy? He sounds really cool. He watched a movie about flying planes once. He watched a disaster movie. We should put him in charge. Works for politics, doesn't work for anything else. Brad, thanks so much for that super chat. How the fuck has Darwinism not got to RFK Jr.? I don't know. Take in all the good people. Alistair, thank you so much for that super chat. Max, that's what Govey said in the Brexit debate. Yes, Michael Gove very famously said, we're sick of experts. The public are sick of experts. We don't need to hear any more experts. Was it Ronald Reagan or the Russians? I don't know who said, trust but verify. Look, you trust the expert, but you check that everything is correct. You peer review, you cross-reference. Nothing wrong with doing that. It's a good thing to do. So not just take what somebody says at face value. Research it. Is this person telling the truth? Is this person a legitimate source? Because if they say something that's true and you cross-reference it with somebody else who's saying exactly the same thing, then you can build up an idea in your mind that this is probably true. We will never get 100% certainty, but we can live within a reasonable level of certainty. But you don't know what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does. He's like, yeah, well, I saw something on Facebook and I like what I saw on Facebook, so now I'm going to follow that. I'm going to listen to my experts on... No, when he doesn't like experts, he says, no, I do my own research. And it involves Facebook or Twitter or YouTube. Not the way to go. So guys, we're almost at the end. I just want to say thanks to everyone who came on tonight. Thank you for smashing the like button. Thanks for everyone who sent a super chat. Greatly appreciated. And thanks to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. But before we go, remember we have our one for the road. I'll be on the post-stream chat on Discord tonight a little bit later after the show. So before we go, hope you enjoy this. It's a good one.
So, how are you settling in, Jürgen?
All good, although I'm struggling a little bit with the English.
Well, look, if you have any questions, you just ask me, yeah?
Actually, I do have a grammatical question for you.
Yeah?
Is it big red car or red big car?
Big red car.
Why? Is there a set adjective order in English?
Sorry, what?
You are a native speaker, yes?
Oh, yeah.
So why?
Well, because it sounds right.
Thank you, but that wasn't very helpful. When do you use a and when do you use an?
You use an when the following word starts with a vowel. Yeah.
I guess I should have gone to learn English at an university.
Wait, hold on, that's not right.
Why?
It just doesn't sound right.
But what's the rule?
I don't know.
Not again.
How's the new flat?
All good. We're still waiting of a delivery of many furniture.
Many pieces of furniture.
Thank you for correcting me. Many pieces of furniture. Yeah. But thankfully the previous tenants, they left many pieces of chair.
Oh, you just say many chairs.
Not many pieces of chair.
No.
Oh, okay, why?
Because it doesn't sound right.
Well, that's not as helpful as you think it is. We need to solve this by Friday.
Yeah, that's literally impossible.
It's not possible at all?
Well, no, it would just be very difficult.
But you said literally.
Yeah, but literally doesn't mean literally.
But it does.
Well, yeah, but not, literally.
What does ironic mean?
Oh, don't worry, nobody knows, ironically.
I don't think it means that.
No, I don't know what it means.
Yeah, I know you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to say, I don't know.
I don't know.
Don't bullshit me.
Yeah, but it sounded right.
Which of these is correct? Ireland will win the World Cup, or the World Cup will be won by Ireland?
Neither.
Or why?
Move on.
Really, I'm settling in quite well. I have already swum in the sea.
Sorry, no, swum, that's not a word.
Oh, it is, yes?
It's swam.
No, swam is the past tense of swim, while swum is the past participle.
But it just doesn't sound right.
Yes, but it's not a rule, what you've said. Finally, if you have any further questions, you can write me.
Write to me.
No, I think write me is correct.
Nobody says that. You say write to me. Just...
If you have any further questions, you can contact to me.
No, contact me. Just contact me.
But why? I don't understand.
I don't know.
This language. It is so frustratingly difficult.
All right, it's okay. Look, you might not be very good at English now, all right? But you will be someday.
Thank you. And so will you. Would you like to borrow my English book when I'm finished?
Oh, we have a comment from Casper. Thanks so much, Casper, for that support. Thank you for that message. So, guys, have a great weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday, same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night.